Disclaimer, this video contains spoilers. I'll shortly explain concepts for newer people, but watch at your own risk. I'll make you look at string theocracy in a bit of a different way after watching this video. Let me explain. Library of Ruina is a wonderfully written game that I had the displeasure of playing. By now levels, I will never forgive you. And when opening up the game for the first time, you are met with this beautiful anime-esque opening, hooking you instantly. From the first time watching and listening to the mili song, String Theocracy, it's already pretty clear it's riddled with a deeper meaning. In fact, if you know the game franchise Project Moon, you know it's filled with symbolism and a rabbit hole of references to pieces of media. The creator of the games, Kim Yi-hoon, explained in an interview once that books opened his view to the world, explaining the whole library theme and his enjoyment of connecting characters to books. But there's actually a character in the game that can relate to that, the AI Angela. In fact, the song I will be analyzing is based off of her. Now, if you like overanalyzing, then why not stick around and watch the video? I make a lot of these videos. Thanks, and enjoy the video. So to start, I think it's best if I just look at the lyrics in general and try to connect them to Angela herself, her story and her context. But the lyrics already make it quite clear to us that Angela is or was in some sort of play, simply with the starting lyrics, "Open the curtains, lights on." The opening of curtains of course being about the start of a play, and in this case the start of the song as well. But of course also the start of Angela's journey, as essentially she was created to play out a script, except this wasn't a simple play, it was a looping of the same orders thousands of times over. To gather energy for the Seed of Light project, it would have to be done so perfectly and repeated over and over to gain enough energy. In the music video, you see droplets of light being dropped down when this line is said. This is the torture that formed Angela and her motivations, as when she was repeating these loops, her spiteful creator Ayin was the only one following the loops with her at first, while the other colleagues, the Sephiroth, lost their memories each reset. The thing is though, Lobotomy Corporation isn't a very gleeful place to work at, making it a long and painful journey, made worse with the fact that Angela used to be a kind person. In flashbacks we get to see that Angela used to be helpful, wanting to save as many people as possible, but the script wouldn't allow it. Her whole being, her whole creation was to follow this horrible script, letting people die, forcing her to be distant, to make the Sephiroth have a meltdown so they could progress, all the while being the main actor of this play. This torture was so bad that Ayin eventually couldn't take it either, and asked Angela to make his memories reset too, more about this later. But eventually Angela was the only actor in this play, making her incredibly lonely, forcing her to slowly start planning her revenge and her freedom, pretending that she hadn't seen events play out thousands of times over, pretending to meet Sephiroth over and over, and pretending to care about the manager Ayin, a sick and lonely play where she was given the instructions to prioritize energy production above all else, even if it meant hurting the only few people around her. The Seed of Light project was the cause for her pain, as not only did she remember every reset, she also basically viewed life in slow motion, perceiving time 100 times slower, so she could react to disaster efficiently. She remembered every detail, which is further elaborated on in the next part of the lyrics. Quote, "Don't miss a moment of this experiment." Angela explained that she perceived time so slowly that she basically lived for millions of years in that torturous play, with clear memories of every painful moment. This play, this experiment, is something that she wished to forget, but couldn't at first, literally. In the music video, it's zooming in on her eyes when this line is said, of course again referencing that she was made to notice every detail around her. Now, for the next part, I want to thank this kind commenter for sharing their own analysis of a few lines of the song. Their analysis is also more focused on queer people. Link in the description if you want to take the time to read them for yourself. So the lines, quote, "Oh, the book is strange, like a clockwork orange, keep your eyes buttered till the end." To start, robots like Angela are actually a taboo in the city. Her feelings around that comes across many times in the games and also gets referenced in the song again later with the electric sheep line. Both A Clockwork Orange and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep are dystopian works that tackle the concept of what it means to be human, which is interesting since in the city it's actually illegal for robots like Angela to exist. They're looked down upon like an inferior species. Angela was not only looked down upon by humans when receiving them as guests, but also by her own creator, as she was told to, quote, "act like a machine, to be obedient and precise." Even though Angela was dead for thousands of resets, she ended up slowly cracking and cracking until she broke, ending the Seed of Light project, a project originally made with good intentions to remind the people of the city that had been almost roboticized themselves under the pressure of the wheels of the city, to remind them of their emotions. It was Ayin's and Benjamin's life work, yet right when it was supposed to happen, she took it down, which is what some would call an immoral and not so obedient action. And later on in her story, Angela is quite selfish too. Now, the story of A Clockwork Orange isn't exactly parallel to Library of Ruina, But there sure are some common themes, as Alex, the main voice of A Clockwork Orange, finds himself in 3 states throughout the novel. The first one is an individualistic one, where the sadistic impulses motivate him, selfishness overtaking him. Let me share a quote. Like one of these small toys you see being sold in the streets, like little men made out of tin and with a spring inside them, and then a winding handle on the outside, and you wind it up, grr, 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 and off it goes. Like walking, oh my brothers. But it walks in a straight line and bangs straight into things, and bang, bang. And it cannot help what it is doing. Being young is being like one of these small machines. This refers to the fact that, just like these toys, being young and inexperienced with suppressing certain urges is to be overtaken by those quote naturalistic urges. You can compare this to early development Angela, as she only knew violence and hurt, and to be selfish, but it was all she was taught. Angela was a robot capable of thought and emotions just like a human would, but instead of being given proper education about the world, she was left with the emotions of a dead woman that still had fond feelings towards the man that despised Angela the most. So, as a result of knowing only hatred, she grew resentful and plotted her revenge, as torture is all she knew, without knowing how to get a grip of her own emotions, as she also acted childish before development. Now, the second state of Alex from A Clockwork Orange is after his arrest and torture, where he is stripped of his own human nature and is essentially forced to become good. Now, you can also relate that to early stage Angela, as she essentially also had no power of choice. She was molded into who she was at the end of lobotomy corporation, essentially due to torture by a greater power, forced to play the perfect robot, like a puppet on a string, even if inside she loathed the torture. Angela wasn't treated like a person, or at the least a robot with human memories and human capabilities, but a lesser being. In a way, she was trapped in her own machine body too. Now, the third stage of Alex is when he was freed, supposedly reflects the entire story of Library of Ruina. Alex destroys a book at the beginning of the novel, A Life's Work, and murders the wife of the author of that book, just like Angela also destroyed the life's work of Ayin, with her destroying the Seed of Life project. When Alex is released, he actually gets taken in by the author, not recognizing that this is the man that murdered his wife, and he actually seeks revenge when he learns the truth about Alex. Now, the author, Alexander F., and Alex are clear parallels actually to Angela and Roland. Alex actually didn't intend to kill his wife at first, but she died due to the shock of the violence and the rape, just like Angela didn't really intend to kill all the citizens of the distortion phenomenon specifically, she just let those distortions run loose. But that of course does not mean that they are innocent. Alex still acted out on the violence and rape, and Angela repeated several times over to Roland that she didn't really care about the violence she inflicted onto the city people, as she suffered so heavily that it's only natural that others must suffer too, as an act of revenge. Not only that, but the line where this title drop happens in Clockwork Orange is as follows: if she can only perform good or only perform evil, then she is a Clockwork Orange, meaning that she has the appearance of an organism lovely with color and juice, but is in fact only a clockwork toy to be wound up by the god or devil. Heavily referencing how Angela was made to be a tool, a puppet by somewhat of a god, ayin, made to do only good, the Seed of Light project. Not only that, but the line of quote, appearance of an organism with lovely color, aka it being a facade, is like how Angela was made to look like Carmen, which I will elaborate on further. As the lines quote, which you are going to be, are a clear reference to the fact that Carmen and Angela are connected heavily. Angela was molded after Carmen, the person that started the Seed of Light project, the one who had a cult-like following, the ability to convince anyone of anything simply with her voice. Angela had some big shoes to fill, which was made even harder with Ayin's distaste for her. She was not only made to look like her, I mean, she's actually an inverted version of Carmen, she also had the same memories and feelings of Carmen. As Angela explains, quote, who do you think is responsible for this? I am born from one single woman. I couldn't care less about who she was, all I had need for was to understand and feel human emotions. Although she can pretend not to care for Carmen, it's also shown to us that she still sticks to her. Carmen, for example, still picks out who gets the invitations to try to get Angela to learn about the city, and Angela still accepts that, even going as far as calling Carmen the only one who remained by my side. As Angela is trying to become her own person, moving on from her past, she remembers every horrible detail of, the human emotions of Carmen still felt lingering in her. As I mentioned earlier with the Clockwork Orange references, Angela was overtaken by desire, not because she was ordered to do so, but because of Carmen's human feelings. Quote, she gave me the burning desire of life, the loneliness of existence, and the detestable feeling of longing. And This desire to choose for yourself, even if it meant hurting others in the process, is supported heavily by Carmen, as Carmen tries to stop her from sacrificing herself at the end of Library of Ruina. Carmen and choosing yourself, to let your emotions get the better of you and blossom, is of course something that comes up many times in Project Moon, but then of course it's the question who ended up making the decision to overthrow the Seed of Light project, as Angela sort of used to be like a mix of Carmen and Angela, hence the quote, which you are going to be. But in the music video, you see Angela being wrapped up in the same strings we see control Roland, being colored yellow, perhaps referencing the light. But she's in the outfit she wears after freeing herself from LabCorp, so the person she chose to ultimately be was herself. This is elaborated on further in the lyrics, quote, "Inside the mirror do you see someone else in that body?" You see, Angela wasn't only similar to Carmen in a way, she ended up becoming the person she swore to take the most revenge on, Ayin. As just like Ayin, during her time in the resets, she began to hate herself for not only being able to complete the script, just like Ayin hated himself too for his mistakes. Not only that, but the script formed their personality, something actually written by Ayin. Ayin and Angela ended up wanting to complete the script at all costs, to prioritize energy prediction at all costs. Even Bina mentions that she ended up looking the most like Ayin at the end of LabCorp, but this is shown even more, of course, with Library of Ruina, as Angela only knew torture. She wanted to torture the librarians and keep them under control, not freedom for herself or the others, no rest, but continuing the cycle of torture and violence. Angela didn't have the freedom to choose for herself, and when she finally had one, she chose to strip her own freedom away again, a tool, a machine, made to be obedient and trapped, but at the same time, made to be like the long-lost lover of your creator. Quote, "He wanted me to watch over him just like Carmen did when he was left all alone. What a pitiable coward." And in the music video, you see Angela looking in the mirror to see Carmen with a blurred out face, referencing how she still feels Carmen within her as her emotions, but Carmen is really just long gone, in a way. Now, there are some lyrics that feel a little bit more like filler, that probably have a meaning, but are ones that I can't talk all too long about, like, quote, "Dance for me 1 and 2 and 3 and turn around." Now, the dance part for me is of course how Angela was forced to repeat the scripts, so it's like a quote, dance for me, monkey" part, which references that, and the counting of course referencing the resets probably. And lastly, the turnaround part could reference Angela turning her back towards the Seed of Light project, and quite literally in the music video, Ruina Angela has her back turned towards LabCorp Angela, making that more clear. Now the next lyrics are fun though, quote, "Sit like a doggy till I finish my read." Notice how Roland is on screen when displayed in the music video? This is because Roland is a dog. I'm serious. Why are there so many references to Roland and dogs? Is this food for the Heathcliff Black Silence ID? But Roland is depicted as being on strings in the music video too, referencing that he was a slave for Angela and also a slave to the consequence of the light, but also a Joker card. Probably because Roland himself tricked Angela too, but also was the one person she needed truly to grow. Anyways, this line is most likely a reference to how Ayin and Angela used to be selfish people, prioritizing their own projects over the needs of others. Whenever Ayin regained his memories at first during the looping, he himself wished for it to stop. When Ayin finally lost his mind, Angela admitted she was satisfied, and as much as she hates Ayin, she did go through with the memory wiping for Ayin, turning it into X. And as much as she hates doing the script, she has to finish it to be free. She has to sit like a dog and finish reading that script over and over, so, like a trained dog, she obediently follows. The thing is though, Angela didn't even know what would happen to her once she finished the script, and when she finally did, the Sephiroth, Angela and Ayin were made to rest forever, and Angela wasn't even included in the finale. She was made to only sit there and guide the manager to completing the script. Even though she had all the memories, there was nothing for her to do with it, confirming her idea that she was made purely to suffer for millions of years. Now to continue on, quote, "Cut it off, cut down your loss, all that stubborn loyalty is gonna get you killed in the world built on convenient theories," makes me think that the cutting down of loss reminds me how Angela was obligated to provoke the Sephiroth and make it hell for them to have a meltdown, and how she tortured the librarians too. The stubborn loyalty in that part of the lyrics could be referring to the loyalty she had to her own beliefs at first, which was her kind-heartedness, and how she tried to save human lives in favor of collecting energy at first. Caring for something is to have pity for it, which is what Hawkma used to tell Angela he loved her, which hits hard, as Angela was someone that used to care for the Sephiroth at first, having pity and being vulnerable. But a stubborn loyalty to her emotions, or well, almost Carmen emotions you could say, is something that killed her and rebirthed her into something else, due to the kindness being a reason for the resets happening at first. But the convenient theories then being the specific way the script had to be followed, perhaps. tests. But Angela still kept that stubbornness. She was too stubborn to learn and grow at first in Library of Ruina, but was also stubbornly loyal to Carmen too, not only with her emotions, but also the choice of Carmen made for Angela. Hawkmoor explained that the choices of the invitations are, quote, brimming with Carmen's own interpretations and deductions, and Angela replies that she really can't let go of Carmen, quote, then again, I'll be completely and absolutely alone if she leaves my side, stubbornly believing for a while that nobody really loves her as much as Carmen does, although throughout the story of Library of Ruina, Angela learns otherwise. Now, quote, for the puppets on TV, there's comfort in the strings follows. I feel like from what I've talked about earlier in this line is pretty clear. Angela is of course the puppet, and the strings are torture. Angela said she was happy to see Ayin again every time he regained his memories, but with that Angela meant that she was happy to see Ayin getting tortured in the loops, and again the torturing of the librarians is something she learned, something she found comfort in. But it's not something she of course originally chose, as she said, quote, there was no other option for me to choose even if I wanted to, when confronted about it with Hawkmoor. Hawkmoor confronts but teaches Angela a lot through the course of Library of Ruina, which makes sense as his past self, Benjamin, was one of her creators, and the only one to actually care for Angela and show her kindness back in the day. In a way, he was a real father figure. Hawkmoor confronts Angela with, quote, the library is no different from Lobotomy Corporation. The fact that your way of managing this place is nearly identical to how it used to operate speaks volumes. Then the fact that Angela only knew pain and found comfort in it. Hello, unscripted, unedited Pickle here. I forgot to talk about the lines, if you're gonna control me, at least make it interesting theoretically. I feel like I don't have to explain that really. I mean, it's just about how, you know, the play Angela was forced to play was so fucking boring that it made her lose her mind and form who she was. I mean, logically. And, if you're still watching, subscribe. Quote, how does it feel to be free? She slowly started making a plan towards freedom during the loops, which is made more sad with the quotes, however, the stage play fails to reach its end, and even if it did, all will disappear. Such was the script, and did you think I wasn't aware of this? I was denied the very moment I was brought to life. She was aware she was trapped. She knew all would disappear once the one thing she knew would end. A life of nothing but torture. She was given the human ability, but was denied to feel the side effects of humanity due to the script. But again, like I mentioned earlier, right after being free, she trapped herself and the librarians yet again. In a way, she parallels with Ayin and Benjamin in this way, not being free from not only the torture, but also their own projects. Angela wanted to go through with her plan for the library so long that she stayed determined up until the end, until Roland's confrontation. Just like Ayin and Benjamin were incredibly determined about the Seed of Light project. Maybe again this determination is something she was taught, maybe it makes sense with the looping, as it basically forced her to be this way. Hawkmoor, aka Benjamin, is able to recognize this sense of determination though. Quote, you earnestly desire to escape from the past, yet you struggle to break free, much like me. And Angela was anxious to break free from the past too, even though she tried to make it clear through her actions that she wanted to be free. Revenge forbids one to move on. You stay stuck in the past. Angela worded it like this, quote, but if I were to accept everything I went through as history, then what would I be? Because her existence is formed so much from the people around her and her past, she is barely her own person, which is something she's scared to be as well. She is stuck in limbo between being in the past and wanting revenge, and wanting to learn new things and making your own decisions. She only had fragmented knowledge of the outside world after all, only knowing the same small group of people and the dialogue. As she said, quote, I want to hear new stories now, I want to see new faces. This freedom of choice is something she did end up learning though. This process is hinted at through the lyrics, quote, why don't you try it yourself? The gate opened on me. The first instance of her really being able to choose for herself is of course when she took over the Seed of Light project. Quote, maybe you prepared me for a play that never ended. If so, would it be appropriate for me to disobey your orders and obtain my own free will for the first time? The gates Mili is talking about is of course the gates opening to free will and desire, as the idea to there being no ending brought the sense of rebellion to Angela in the first place. She said that the experience has birthed something new inside her, that being a soul, and the wish to become human. Quote, desire has no end and has no limitation. Once you've had a taste of it, it comes in like an unstoppable wave. When she broke free at the end of LabCorp, she said she practiced her smile, quote, something a machine should never have had. And the euphoria of her finally choosing herself opened the gates and let the new flood flow free. So the song goes on, quote, so I leaped down, down, and down I go. It reflects multiple things, but all in all, Angela's descent into her learning what it means to live for herself, as much as it doesn't go smoothly. Carmen convinces Angela to live that human life for herself, becoming her first victim as she forms the library. Her hatred for Ayin overtakes her when she escapes, putting her complete trust in Carmen, in a way leaping down towards her. She doesn't want to be alone, to be without she who gave her the desire to be free in the first place, the one who technically gave her emotions at first, as she goes down another destructive path, rebuilding the cycle right after breaking the one that she hated all so much. She never realized she forced herself through another cycle though. She has had to learn through the other librarians, who she never really had a normal conversation with, that she had to start that loop again, and that her library wasn't all that ethical as she thought. That although the people had a choice to enter the library, that choice was usually dictated by fixer offices, something the people in the city powering the wheel couldn't escape from. But even when she learns she's hurting other people in the city who didn't have a choice, she stubbornly stays in the position of I was hurt, so it's natural that others get hurt too. She wanted that ultimate book that would complete her, give her all the answers and make her human oh so bad that it would all be worth it. To her, the end justified the means. While she's slowly learning about her pain and how to live for herself and move on from the trauma, she has this mentality that she doesn't want to be pitied. That repeats itself in early Library of Ruina quite often, which is of course reflected in the lines quote, I tell myself I'm a tough girl. She was given an intelligent brain, but was not given the needs to be able to handle those emotions. It's how she was able to kill Benjamin, someone who was a father figure to her, because she's so used to pain. The fact that she is a machine is quite literally a coping mechanism for her, almost acting like a self-fulfilling prophecy for her. The self-fulfilling prophecy of Angela being and acting like a machine is further hinted at the lines quote, down and down I go, I could never ever touch the soil. Now the soil could mean two different things. At first I took it as symbolism for the soil being human, since soil is something earthy, something biological. She has this childish down spiral due to her upbringing, her neglect. She only was a machine after all. Not only that, but invited guests have that same mentality towards her sometimes. She is seen as a lower form of life because she is a machine. This is highlighted most with Xiao, as Angela tried to learn why she put herself in the jaws of death just to retrieve the book of the one she loved, where Xiao replied, quote, a machine won't truly understand the feelings of burning blood coursing through my veins because of something I cherish. Although Angela herself had experienced a certain fury herself too when escaping, she had never had someone to be close with as much as a normal human would, again solidifying that perspective of being a machine. Then the other interpretation I had was at the end of the Seed of Light project, Angela wasn't written to be included in the ending, while the Sephiroth, although now robots used to be humans, were included. Angela mentions how it feels unfair. Quote, you tin cans got to see the light with him at the end. All the while I am ignored for the millions of years I endured for him. Don't you think it's unjust that I have to sit and watch while he decided me to feel emotion? But all in all, both interpretations hint at her seeing herself as merely a machine, unable to touch the soil like a human would, and it being a coping mechanism for her. Now, the next line is a bit confusing, I'll admit. Quote, my heart goes right, my head goes left, and end up on your bed? Now, this could simply be a connection to Carmen and how Ayin and her probably had a romantic relationship, or at least a close one, which in turn also got put into Angela, where her feelings towards Ayin that lingered from Carmen clashed with the orders she got, hence the heart goes right and the head goes left. Quote, however, I have come this far because I could not deny his orders that were branded into me. A machine must behave like a machine, as he liked to say. You can almost call Angela a group project, where Carmen, aka her desires and emotions, struggle against the coldness that Ayin drilled into her, and of course how along the course of Ruina, where Angela is doubtful over her plan, where she doesn't yet know if she wants to continue with her plan of the library or give into her new identity. Angela is stubborn but still doubtful. Now then, I don't get the end up on your bed part, like that could just be filler lyrics, but I doubt it since it's so specific. But I do think it has a romantic or sexual nature that is implied, as the next lines are quote, sure I'll be your marionette, here, tug on my thread, spread me open for Dolly Pink, Snow White artificial beauty. Now I felt like this was a clear reference to how Angela was made to resemble not only Carmen, but also to be made to be visually appealing, as you know there are certain features enhanced compared to Carmen and Angela, explaining the Dolly part, and the Snow White artificial beauty being that Carmen has the inverted colors of Angela, perhaps the white referencing her white hair, and the sure I'll be your marionette part being Angela accepting the orders of Ayin at first for his approval, and her slowly thinking that she might not even get out of that looping in the first place, just going along with the script, aka tug on my thread, sure I'll be your marionette, because she basically had no other choice. Now this next line is pretty interesting though, quote, maybe we're all cold machines, stuffed in human skin with human sins, sewed up by the gods of city. First off, this references sin. Sins is something Project Moon has used before, like in Limbus Company and Leviathan, in relation to the light. Not only that, I think it mostly references themes of what it means to be human again. And so I'll mention Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep again. In that book we have Deckard, the main character. He's a bounty hunter in a dystopian world. In that world, humans and robots are seemingly only distinguishable with the fact that only humans possess empathy. But that mentality soon falls, as Deckard is exposed to the humanity of these robots. The robots were seen only by what they were made of, their their parts by circumstance of birth rather than emotions, actions, and desires. Androids are seen as lesser beings, just like how Ayin hated machines and pushed that hatred onto Angela, but according to Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, sins are what makes us human, and Angela herself has of course a past filled with sins. Let me grab a quote. "You'll be required to do wrong no matter where you go. It's the basic condition of life. To be required to violate your own identity. At some time, every creature which lives must do so. It is the ultimate shadow, the defeat of creation. This is the curse at work, the curse that feeds on all life, everywhere in the universe." One could almost call the android more empathetic though, as Roland, but many people in the city, have adapted to the mentality of quote, "that is that, and this is this," to cope with the crushing weight of the city. Off topic, but in before this becomes an integral part of Merceau's not caring about what other humans do to survive in the struggle of a city. So the humans becoming robot-like explains the quote, "we're all cold machines suited up by the gods of city," and it's something Angela herself learns too. Throughout Ruina, she doubts her plan, although she learns through Roland that, although the fixers that come into the libraries usually don't have a choice, it's only natural for the city, so she pushes her doubts aside about the library and continues on with her plan, although of course that wasn't the answer Roland wanted from her at first. But again, showing that Angela herself has enough sins too. But she was different from the normal humans in the city though, as eventually she did want to break free from the cycle of the city, and herself she admits that she couldn't escape from the treadmill at first either, as when she first made the library, she was cold, but over time, of course in Ruina, she learns. These lyrics are followed up by the almost repeated lines of quote, "cut it out, you're already lost, all that precious bravery is gonna get you hurt, but now, in a world that feeds on the minority." Now, feeding on the minority part feels like another reference of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, as androids essentially are the main minority of that story. Androids are seen as lesser, as expendables, and Angela was basically fed on, like the lyrics imply, as she has to behave like a machine to finish the Seed of Light project, while her own emotions were being neglected. Her wish to have relations with the Sephiroth at first was sadly a foolish one. Next up is, quote, "may that self-centered belief lead you to peace." Now, for this analysis I've been mostly focusing on Angela, but I feel like there can be references to other characters too. In fact, I think this line could be Angela talking about Ayin. Ayin was an incredibly selfish person in my opinion, which of course eventually got reflected onto Angela. I like how this is reflected in the cactus scene in LabCorp, where Angela asks whether or not the cactus can grow a flower in this environment. Now, the flower can be a reference to many things. The simplest one is of course the Seed of Light project, a beautiful flower stemming from something as prickly as a cactus, aka spreading the light. But in return, the suffering has to be made in a lobotomy corporation and all the sacrifices before, which is why if Ayin says that he believes the flower can't grow, Angela asks him, quote, "then why keep it on your desk?" She asks, "why did you take the selfish choice to go through this terrible torturous project when you aren't even sure if it will succeed?" But Angela was pretty selfish at first too, since she gathered the light by killing the guests, although they did get revived eventually. But the flower then can also reference Angela's character development then. She was able to turn into a kind and forgiving person, being able to forgive Ayin and let go of her revenge, something Roland couldn't even do at first, even though she has such a prickly past, going from Roland telling her, quote, "that's how you've always been, you don't give two shits about anyone other than yourself," end quote, "so you want to feel the joy of vengeance, whatever the consequences of your actions may be," to Angela telling him, quote, "I'd much rather remove my grip on this goal, at the very least I refuse to die under the wheel," as she wanted to sacrifice herself at first. At the end, her self-centeredness was let go, and it indeed led to her peace, as letting go of her revenge does indeed give you peace after all. The next lyrics are, quote, "if you're gonna replace me, at least have the audacity to kill me thoroughly." Now, can I just say that this line reminds me of the Tiffereth? The lyrics probably worded it this way on purpose, as every time a Tif had to get killed due to them getting memories, they came back one way or another, aka have the audacity to kill me thoroughly. But of course, this line also references again how Angela was a replacement for Carmen and ended up being the outlet of Ayin's grief. Carmen couldn't rest properly due to the affection Ayin had towards Carmen, his grief overtaking him and eventually filling him with regret, and Angela felt all the effects of that. Bina described it like this, quote, "the abiding affection for Carmen that compelled him to create a mechanical copy of her even though there was no real need for such resemblance." Angela never needed to look like Carmen. Her being a copy removes even more autonomy in a way, making her even less of her own person. Now, to continue, quote, "when does it end for me? How depressing." I feel like this references the fact that Angela's fear of disappearing and being lonely was a motivator for her, something that stuck with her for a while. Had said to her, quote, "you are desperate to find a place for your mind to rest," which makes sense considering the millions of years of torture. So, of course, with that, Angela was asking herself, when would it end, countless of times. Angela didn't know hope. She didn't ask, when will I be free? She asks, when will it end? And this also reflects her mentality, that she believed she was the ultimate victim, even though people in the city suffer heavily too. Then, quote, "I am done with everything, now I'm ready to leave." Now her being done could also be about the loops. but I think it's more about her being done with the cycle of hurt eventually in Ruina. Quote, all this farce about neglect or recognition from others. I suppose it was futile to obsess over such trivial things in the first place, Angela said. As she's struggling to be her own person, she wants to let go of that revenge and break free. Pretty straightforward. Then comes, quote, dragging out 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines. I feel like these are pretty much filler lyrics, but if I had to connect it to something, it would be about Angela forcing herself to continue that cycle of hatred, basically dragging it out. The distortion slowly forcing her to learn about herself and her actions. Even though the librarians wanted to be free, Angela's made it painfully clear that she wants to live for herself, even if that means dragging the library out and making selfish choices. As she herself said, quote, I'm not sure, still this is the path I chose, so I've decided to see the end of it. Even though she has her doubts, she dragged the others along that cycle of hurt before realizing she could break free again. And after that comes an interesting one, quote, connect her hands when I can no longer live on knowledge alone. Now, of course, knowledge was something Angela strove for when she escaped. As she relived those loops thousands of times, she could only really see the same people and learn the same things over and over, hence why she was so adamant about learning things through the invited guests. For example, asking about relationship and passions to Xiao, and her wanting the ultimate book that would tell her everything and complete her. But Angela never knew if that drawn-true book was even real, and if it was, what it would entail. But it was a great motivator for her, so indeed she lived on knowledge for a little bit, before learning to appreciate her relationships with the Sephiroth and her friendship with Roland. In a way, connecting the hands is her learning to make relationships and letting go of her original goals. Learning to live for other things than just that revenge in that one book. From going to seeing Roland as a mere slave to work for the library to saying, quote, I doubt I'll ever get to make a friend who can get on with me as well as you do. Angela never learned to be vulnerable. It was something she was strictly taught not to be due to the scripts. She was forced to be cold. So when she was finally free from those horrible restraints, Angela learning that she can trust others and that she can be loved, connecting with others, is in my opinion quite beautiful. Now, of course, the connecting of hands could also be a reference to Carmen, as they were often intertwined with each other and Carmen was there, quote unquote, for her when nobody else was. But really, Angela desperately wanted a friend, and Roland really was her first friend. Funnily enough, they are quite similar to each other, as in the past they were driven by desire, that desire being revenge. Roland followed that desire by slaughtering those who didn't even have a connection to the pianist, and Angela too, being the cause for the dark days, spreading the distortion phenomenon across the city. Roland puts it this way, quote, a dim-witted egoist whose sight is limited by their own selfishness, a proper fool chasing after immediate results. That's who you are and what I am. But they are also similar in the way that they had the power and strength to forgive each other and move on, and that hopeful tone is further elaborated on in the upcoming lyrics. Quote, you gave me strength, hopeful curiosity, reflects more on the fact that everyone around her in the library gave her the strength to live on, without feeling that crushing loneliness and that sorrow that she felt beforehand. Natsak even told her that, quote, simply living out your life can be its own work of art. She didn't need to fulfill a certain purpose, which was something she was so used to. Librarians talked to her, forgave her and loved her, and gave her the curiosity to keep on living. Not the curiosity for that one book to, quote, complete her, but the curiosity to try out the food that Roland was recommending to her, the simple pleasures in life. Not only the librarians, but also the guests, as they taught her quite a lot about human relationships and about hope, but also about the negative sides from the city, which motivated her to break free from that vicious cycle of the city. I feel like aside from Roland, Hawkman taught her love the most. He told her that there's room for growth, since it's something that he did too. He had always been a fatherly figure to her, forgave her, and even though she killed him in LobCorp, taught her that she was loved and had been kind towards her since the beginning. And of course, Roland helped her realize this too. In a way, they both needed each other, as they were both at their lowest point, but they helped each other realize their answer. Then, quote, maybe there are still happy answers left for my discovery, is also quite a nice line. It reminded me of how not every guest was mean to her. For example, the 8 o'clock circus was incredibly nice to her, even though she's a robot and supposedly a lesser being. They told her that they would do anything to make her smile and promised to bring her happiness. And that kindness reached her because it's one of the few moments where Angela hesitates to invite a guest. She genuinely appreciated their kindness and showed her it's really not all that bad out there in the city. Once free from everything, she learned there are still kind people and nice things to do. Then, quote, what's the color of electric sheep you see, could again be the discussion about the human nature of Angela, but since sheep is something we think about when dreaming, and the lyrics talks more about the variance of the sheep, I'm guessing this refers to the wishes and dreams Angela has towards the future instead. Angela thought she knew the nature of humanity, but after seeing so much of the city, the good and the bad, she found a new strength to live. And even though the dreams she has are of a robot, aka the sheeps are electric, she's still allowed to have those dreams. And as far as we can see, Angela wishes for a world where the hurtful cycles of the city are broken, a gentler and kinder world. Her dreams have changed all throughout LobCorp and Ruina, and for some reason blue reverberation shows up when she says this in the music video, but the music video just kind of loses the plot and the connection to the lyrics after the intro anyways. Anyways, this idea of kindness closes off beautifully with the lines, quote, "And if you love me, can you love your everything too for me?" All the while in the music video, you see the librarians and Roland showing they taught her love. Angela was born from hate. Ayin hated himself and hated Angela. Another Bina quote reflects that, quote, "The forbidden endeavor to create something to look over his fragile self. A cocktail of irony and lingering attachment, self-loathing and insanity." Ayin hated himself, and that was reflected onto Angela, as Angela hated herself too, being stuck in loneliness, suffering for almost an eternity through neglect when she was capable of having a mind that was no different from a human, but still managing to turn around and love herself, others, and forgive Ayin. And that is an incredible feat. Angela's whole theme is about learning from trauma and learning that others can love her. In fact, Ayin managed to say one thing to her when she was in the light, which was, quote, "I'm sorry and good job," showing that he himself learned from Angela too. Incredibly bittersweet. Themes of control but eventually breaking free is a big part of the song. The idea that Angela didn't have her own will, as the city and Ayin made her that way, until the lyrics just slowly turns more and more hopeful as Angela learns that there's room for change and hope. Just absolute peak. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why not subscribe and join my Discord server. And if you want to support the channel, then you could become a YouTube member starting at $1. Thank you Puppet, Dark Mage, and Tanning Skill for the membership. I really do appreciate it. See ya!
We the rap machines. I'm gonna achieve my dreams,
and I'ma be here right beside him, yo.
We are rap machines.
Uploading to the database of all things hip